RevOpsAF, the only podcast for people who are RevOpsAF and want to learn all about things that are RevOpsAF.
Our goal is to give the revenue operations community, that includes marketing, sales, and CS, for any of you not paying attention, the skills needed to accelerate their careers.
Welcome to RevOpsAF, the podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Kamala Thompson, and today I'm joined by Roderick Jefferson. Roderick, tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. First of all, Kamala, thanks for having me on. I am super excited to have this conversation because it's happening in both of our circles, both RevOps and Enablement, and I think there's a lot of misnomers out there. And I hope I can clear some of them up. And also, I hope that I can connect the dots even stronger between the two organizations, which, as we both know, are really dependent on each other to be successful and to make our organization successful. So from a quick intro perspective, I always say first, I'm a sales guy. I started out as a BDR. I carried a bag as a AE, went to President's Club a couple of times, did really well. And what do? Promote people to sales leader. I actually flipped the script on them. I said, no, thank you. I don't want to be a sales leader. Because I realized, I got that same look from my VP of sales. Like, then why'd you do this? Part of it is I wasn't really driven by the money piece. I've always been a people person. So I said, what if I could help do two things by just using some of the rudimentary templates that I had, and that I had created. What if I could, get people up faster and accelerate to speed much quicker than what we're doing today? And secondly, what if I had so many people going to club that you wouldn't have enough budget? And he looked at me and said, then you've got a new job. So I jumped into training right away. And that went really well. Then it evolved. And I've been blessed to have an incredible ride in the SaaS world and here in Silicon Valley where I live. I have run enablement at Siebel, eBay, HP, Oracle, Salesforce, Marketo, etc. Now, it's not about the logos. I think it's the experience that comes from understanding the importance of collaboration, communication, and then orchestration between all of the lines of go-to-market. That's me in a nutshell.
It's such a great background. I'm so glad you're here. I know I'm excited to talk about today's topic, which is all around sales kickoff, because we're just heading into that season. And the reason why I'm excited is because a lot of us who have been in companies for a good chunk of our lives, there's a lot of knowledge that we absorb and then assume other people have without talking about it. So I would really like to get your perspective on what a sales kickoff should be.
Sure. I can actually give that from two perspectives now because I am a consultant who helps to craft and deploy these and implement this with customers as a fractional consultant, but also someone that I think has run 20, 25 of them. I think to begin with, sales kickoff is not about throwing every bit of content in the kitchen sink at people. Because one, we're a TikTok, Instagram, and microwave mentality today, and you can't do it the way we used to. Secondly, it's not about trying to make sure people understand how to do things. It should really be focused on why we're doing things. And the most important thing I can say about, and that I always stressed when I was driving, even also when I'm helping clients to do it, and that is, remember that sales kickoff is the floor. It's not the ceiling. It's the foundation of the house that you're going to build for this new year. And look at it as this, you should walk away from SKO or RKO, however you use the nomenclature. You should walk away with a foundation that is that slab, and let's call it framing and black paper on the house. Everything else should be built throughout the year. And I think what that does is it's a force mechanism whereby it's not just get out there, let's have fun in Vegas and hope that no one goes to jail. You know what I mean? At sales kickoff, we laugh because it's happened.
No, it reminds me of an instance I saw in New Orleans. It's fine. That's why I'm laughing.
It's been known to happen. There are some people that leave SKO unemployed. And some don't leave on the flight that they were planning on being. But in all seriousness, what it does is it should be a force mechanism for continued education throughout the rest of the year. And that it should be tied between sales, marketing, product marketing, believe it or not, HR, enablement, and RevOps. Because without any of those being attached and, let's say, rowing in the same direction, you get chaos, right? And without reinforcement, then what you've done is spent a lot of money on a useless event. If I can stress anything, let's stop having useless events that we call SKO. Utilize them so that you can, of course, set the scope and vision for the upcoming year. Make sure that you introduce any new senior leaders that may have come aboard or any changes that have happened. Focus on things like the new messaging and positioning that will then turn into assets and videos and accreditations and certifications and all the things that we do for reinforcement. But I think the most important part of all of this for anyone that is on the team that's building it, remember, it's not just a spotlight on sales only. Sales wouldn't be successful or may have missed a number last year by themselves. So now you've got a clean slate. You've got blue ocean. You've got a clear whiteboard, however you want to look at it. But what you have is an opportunity to put behind you, whether it was good or bad, behind you and move forward as one consistent and cohesive team. And then I think there should be breakouts. And those breakouts can be regional. They can be by strata, depending on your company. It could be enterprise, mid-market, etc., BDRs. Because what's too technical for one is not technical enough for another. So you've got to get where you can get into specificity of specific roles. Then the other piece is, I always like to bring in two things, partners and clients. Because that's not only credibility, but it's validation also. And it also sets the mindset for both your clients as well as your external partners of, we're in this thing together. We can't be successful without each other. And again, we all have to be rowing the same direction. Because if we don't, not only do you create chaos, but you create confusion internally, externally, and out on the street with your prospects and your clients. Does that all make sense, or did I just throw a lot out there?
It makes sense. Let me oversimplify to make sure that I've got it. So we're aligning around the new goal for the year.
Check.
We're figuring out how to execute the new go-to-market strategy and making sure everybody knows about it.
Check.
And then we are using this as an opportunity to build a team mentality and morale.
100%.
Exclamation mark.
Check.
Yeah,
Exclamation point. You nailed it.
Yes. All right. So where should RevOps fit into this picture? I know we're a big part of figuring out what the goal is, but beyond that, where should we most participate?
Let's step all the way back. They should be a part of the pre-planning process.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's nothing worse, and I know this as an enablement leader, of someone builds something, they throw it over the fence, and they say, okay, go train this. First of all, I believe that you train animals, you enable people. And so with that in mind, all of the key players that are going to be a part of the entire production, if you will, needs to be a part of the pre-planning process as well. And here's why. Because as we're putting in new systems, we can't do it without you folks in RevOps. When we're putting in new processes, new platforms, new programs, methodologies, etc., we can't do it without you guys. And there's nothing worse than coming later, and I'm sure you've seen this before, Hamlin. All right, you guys put all this stuff in place, and oh, great, you come to us now and ask for metrics. Like you don't have enough to do, right? So let's agree up front on what success looks like, and then let's work as a cohesive unit to then reverse engineer it so that everyone, one, knows what their role is, and everyone nods, which then leads to accountability for all, nod. That then leads to ownership, nod. And here's the important part. When it's all over and you're sending out this, hey, this was great and we killed it and we all enjoyed, guess what? We should all be a part of the communication plan as well. Because I've seen it too many times where RevOps are left out and you're like, I guess you didn't need me, so why should I be invested in your success? Success is a team sport. So with that in mind, everyone that it takes, you'll see behind me, I was a football coach. And the thing that I always stressed was the single most important person on the field, and everyone normally goes, oh, it's the quarterback. No, it's not. It's the center. Because nothing happens until they hike that ball. Guess who the center is for all of us? Our clients. Our prospects. Because nothing happens until they hike that ball and they say, yes, let's move forward. So let's start treating each other with care and a bit more empathy, and we shouldn't be frenemies. I've heard that way too many times. We should literally be lockstep, and we should be hip to hip moving forward. And that means everyone gets ownership, accountability, and as I said earlier, accolades as well.
Yeah, I like when a company is thoughtful and includes people outside of sales in the President's Club celebrations, in the honorable mentions. That's
Absolutely.
always a really important feel-good moment. Beyond that, I would always encourage revenue operators to participate as much as they can, especially in the dinners and the after. Don't stay anywhere after midnight. Nothing good happens.
Nothing
before then,
good happens after night at SKOs, trust me.
yes.
No matter what.
Before then, though, bond and have fun.
Absolutely. And here's another thing that most people don't think about. I also believe that RevOps should be a part of all of the QBRs as well. And if you set that precedent up front by having them be a part of SKO, it's a natural transition. One thing I left out that I've used that's worked really well. Do a go-to-market panel. Up on stage, have someone from marketing, product marketing, HR, RevOps, even product. And let's talk about openly and broadly and publicly how we work cohesively together and why it's important for the people that are sitting out in that audience. Because if we don't work well, guess what? You make no money. And I'm not talking about just sales. Although I'm one of the founding members of the Sales Enablement Society, I was one of the grandfathers of Sales Enablement. Sales Enablement is passé. It really is. It's like having a Walkman. It is. Because it has evolved now to go-to-market enablement. Because when you're talking about sales enablement, it invariably infers that sales is above all and everybody else works for them. No one works for anyone. We all have to work cohesively again together for everyone's sake. You make great money, you have great relationships, you build a culture because culture is what happens when no one is watching. And believe it or not, your culture for that year starts at SKO. That sets the bar right there as to what the culture will look like and how it will roll out for the remainder of the year. But I don't think SKO is just enough. How many companies have you been with? And I'll ask this out broadly to the folks watching. Think about this. How many times have you gone to an SKO? You come back. You may have a reinforcement plan, or you may not. You may just jump right into the year. How many times do you actually stop to have a mid-year summit to prepare for the second half? And it's not just another SKO. So let me say that before CFOs go crazy and thinking that I'm dipping into the budget again. No, what it is, an opportunity to review what we did in the first half, celebrate those, or accelerate where we have shortcomings. And it sets the tone that carries throughout the rest of the year. And guess who's a part of that? The very same groups.
I like so many of those points. I am going to pull at one, though. It is so easy to, especially maybe earlier in your career, not realize that we get just a tiny sliver of people throughout their days. We don't see what they're going through personally, what all they're doing for their job. It is so easy in any department, but revenue operations is one of them, to get frustrated that the sales team isn't filling out all their fields, or maybe we even say they're lazy because they're not doing the things we want them to do. This is a really good opportunity to get more curious about what people are going through in their day-to-day jobs and all the tasks they're responsible for. Just getting to know them a little bit better as a human, and maybe even using that as an opportunity to ask them later, hey, can I sit in on some calls or get to know what you do better?
Absolutely. I'll go back to the piece you said that really resonates with me, and that is being a part of the dinners and the social pieces, right? Because, and let's be honest, sometimes go-to-market folks look at RevOps, they look at enablement, and they look at legal the same way. They're like, I don't want to talk to them until I have to, and then it's already too late. Most of the time. How about if we humanized the members of the entire go-to-market team? And then that way what happens is when you have something coming up, they're more apt to reach out. Also, they don't feel like the only time I ever hear from RevOps is when we're doing something wrong. I don't claim to be the smartest, but I know I'm not the dumbest. So I've come up with an idea that I think works, not even I think, that I've implemented time and time again. And that is, put the ownership and the accountability on the first and second line leaders, especially in sales. Because what's important to them is imperative to the people that report to them. And more importantly, if we start the year off as a true team, which includes the leaders, then now they can't say, oh, we're not going to support it and put it in, because guess what? We all agreed on it and you had input. So you don't get off the hook on that one. But more importantly, it then says you own the adoption, the execution, but most importantly, you own the positive modeling of what we're expecting and what we need from your people. But again, if you go back to the why about things, these conversations are much easier. Then there's no finger pointing. When you're talking about the what and the how, it leads to finger pointing. If you say why, here's why this is important. Most people in go-to-market don't understand why they're being asked to do things. They just know that they're being overburdened because of so much that they have to do, the what and the when and the how. Let's flip the script and start talking about the why, and I guarantee you we will get more input and we will get more partnership than we've ever had.
So how should teams be coordinating around SKO or RKO from the angle of how do we make the most of this long term?
Again, change the mindset first, that it's not an event, a single event, that it's the beginning of an ongoing occurrence. And as enablement, it behooves us and it sits on our plate that during that section that we have, which we have in every SKO, we talk about what the rest of the process and the framework will look like for the remainder of the year and who will be involved. And again, I go back to that big W word, why we're doing it and why we're doing it the way that we're doing. This isn't something we created in about a vacuum. This was the entire go-to-market leadership team that has nodded and agreed and are ready to move forward as a unified front.
Yeah, and some of the things I see missing are some thoughtfulness into what should be changing after these events throughout the years. So if we're doing them right, we should be seeing slower time or faster time to ramp, shorter sales cycles, all of these really good things. But in addition to that, the coordination that needs to happen cross-functionally and then communication around comparing back to the original goals we set and when we need to course correct. I think too often we don't check back in on a regular basis.
Agree. And that's the other thing. There are ongoing recurring meetings, or should be recurring meetings, with that go-to-market leadership team on an ongoing basis. I know nobody needs or wants another quote-unquote meeting, but this is not a meeting. This is literally to ensure that we're staying on the rails and that we catch it early, and to your point, we can course correct right away versus saying we're already down the road, it's too late now. No, it's not too late. It's only too late if you're not doing those consistent base touching, if I can talk today, and you're not connected. If you're not meeting regularly, life is too busy to pop your head up and go, hey, RevOps, what's going on with you guys over there? We don't wake up every day thinking that, just like they don't wake up thinking enablement every day, or they don't think product marketing every day. But if we show the why again and how important it is to do this collaboratively, it makes things a lot easier. And to some, I know they're saying it sounds Pollyannish and I've got on rose-colored glasses. No, I'm actually talking from experience. I've been on both sides of that, where there was a complete disconnect between all of the lines of business. And I've been in an even employed framework where I own those ongoing meetings and collaborative spaces to make sure that we stay connected. And I'm going to bet you can guess which one works out better.
Oh, yeah. I'm a huge fan of, if you're looking at it quarterly, it's too late.
Yeah.
If you're doing it weekly with the leader, it doesn't have to be a long meeting, but if you can point out to marketing, hey, we're in month 1 and we're well behind pipeline, and month 1 is when we build it. So can we come up with a plan to fix it by end of quarter? That's so much different than waiting until the end of the quarter and saying, whoops.
Absolutely. You just touched on a very important piece, and that is talking to our partners in their language. Right? You're talking to sales, you talk about where are we on revenue, what's projected, what's closing. When I'm talking to my partners in RevOps, I want to know what are your top 3 priorities and who was involved in setting that priority. Was it just your leader? Was it sales plus, marketing plus, enablement plus, right? Plus. And then you know how to have those conversations. If I go to talk to a sales engineering leader the same way that I talk to a CS, a customer success or solution leader, they're going to look at me like I've got 2 heads. So our job, and I say ours, I'm talking about enablement and RevOps, we have to become the translators of dialects and languages. We've got to be able to speak all those other languages and then translate that into our teams, and then take the feedback from our team, whether it be needs, sometimes complaints, and that's okay sometimes because you have to have those as well, right? If there's not positive friction, then somebody's not speaking what's really going on. And also metrics and measurements in their language. Give them metrics that matter to them. Because if I'm talking to my SE leader about what's happening with daily calls and what's happening with BDRs, honestly, they could care less. But if I talk to them about if they don't do this, then there's not a translation into more productivity for your organization, they care.
Yeah, I love that. Take the time to explain why you think it's important to measure something and listen to the feedback from the person. Had a recent conversation with an SDR about meeting set and why it's important to track their effort and contribution to the business and why we look at that contribution. It really changed the attitude immediately because I was no longer just asking them to fill out a field.
Exactly. And it's not about fields. It's how can we help your life be easier? And by you doing this transversely, it will help mine. And then ultimately it helps the organization, which ultimately helps our prospects and customers.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell revenue operators out there who are listening in?
Yes, stop being the piñata of an organization. Stop taking all of the swings that are happening. And I'm not saying swing back, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is let's change the narrative by changing the mindset. And that only happens by changing the relationship. And the final thing I want to talk about is the big elephant in the room, AI. AI is wonderful for content, not so good for context. That's where we come in, is providing the context. The why behind this is obviously we're trying to drive productivity and revenue. But I think that, and what I've been focused on with my clients is how do I help them to leverage AI to actually be more human? And so if you look at it from that perspective, And I said, content beyond our wildest dreams. Context still required, for now, still requires a human touch. So my mindset is IQ plus EQ plus AI equals go-to-market productivity and increase revenue.
I would also say we need to apply that logic to metrics.
Oh,
The
yes.
the data tells us what, not why.
Not why.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the overarching theme here is start talking about why, not just what and when and where and how. Those should be secondary, tertiary. Every conversation you have with anyone in go-to-market should start with, here's why. Let me explain why. Here's the logic and the why behind this. And you know what it does? It disarms the conversation right away. Because you're not finger pointing, you're not coming at them for you to do things for deliverables. Let's get away from deliverables. Let's start talking about the true baseline understanding of why this is important. And then you can talk about what this will mean. You can then talk about when and where we're going to do it, and the platforms and the tools and the programs and all those other things. And then finally, we can talk about how. But take the why and apply that logic to here's what success looks like. Now, in order for us to get to that point of success together, here's why we have to do things this direction. And that doesn't mean everything is written in stone. Sometimes I just want to get your feedback in, and most of the time I go early on and go, here's what we're putting together. Here's what we heard from the rest of the lines of business. Does this make sense? And that's where I sit down in that meeting with my RevOps leader and go, here's the plan, here's the strategy. Before I go and talk to sales, before I go talk to product marketing, before I go talk to anybody else, I want to talk to you and make sure that this is realistic. This is not going to completely overburden you and your team. And how do we do this thing together? Because if we both approach with the same vernacular, the same process, the same outcomes, the same success metrics, guess what? It doesn't feel disjointed, and it does not confuse them, and it does not create an adversary relationship with the other lines of business.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on the show. That was amazing. I hear you have a book coming out, and I would love to help you plug it.
Yes, I am so excited. My baby comes out next week. So I've got one book out there now called Sales 3.0. And it literally was written about this. There's an entire chapter in the book about communication, collaboration, and orchestration across all the lines of business. This one's special, and it's called Stroke of Success. It's literally about what happens when you allow what you do to overtake who you are, when you lose balance and mindfulness, and when you start wearing that, I'll say, corporate mask. 70 hours a week of busyness. When I'm doing my emails at 11 o'clock at night, I'm actually giving, and a part of it is about a massive stroke that I had 4 years ago that was based upon all of this. But it's really more about the people in your life, how to be present, how to have real relationships and real conversations. It's not by any stretch a motivational book. It's literally, I wrote it in 3 stages, like a play, if you will. The first was the big rise, all those logos I talked about. The second piece was what it did to me medically, emotionally, psychologically, and physically. And the third is, you can look at it 2 ways. One, here's the phoenix that rises out of the ashes, and that's all of the best practices that I shared that I wish someone would have shared with me before I got really sick. Or it's, here's how not to become that guy, because nobody wants to be that guy. I got to a point where I literally flatlined and died. They gave me 2% chance to live. I don't want to see anyone else go through this. If I can help them. And they're like, I've never had a stroke and I probably won't. Surprise. American Stroke Association says that every adult over the age of 25 will incur even the smallest of a stroke in their life. Take care of yourself, take care of your heart, take care of your brain, and take care of those around you. And sometimes, while I know we've been talking about work this entire time, most of the time, people would agree, work is not the most important thing right now, especially with everything that's going on in the world. Take some time and stop worrying about connections and start focusing on connecting.
We will include links in the show notes because the book should be out. And is it okay if we also link to your LinkedIn?
100%. I will give you my link tree to all of my social media. I always say if you can't find me on social media, you're not really trying. Because it's all out there. And please connect with me on LinkedIn if I've touched something that has resonated with you. I don't do these just to prognosticate and talk. I'd really love to hear from what touched you, and if you've got any questions on how to do this, if you're a company that's looking to bring in a consultant to help you with these things, I know a guy. So let's connect.
Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode, everybody.
For more great content like this, join our community at RevOpsCoop.com and check out the links provided in the show notes.
Keep it RevOpsAF, y'all.